So Omni Contraction, biggest thing, this is just an organization of training, okay? This is something, for example, we get in season, if anybody's familiar with Joe Ken tier system, my in-season training looks a whole lot more like a Joe Ken tier system than it does probably anything else, okay? But in an off season, June and July, we are always gonna start the first Monday of June. The way our academic calendar lines up, we're gonna go 4 weeks. We get the entire team gets a week off for the 4th of July. We go 4 more weeks in July. They get 2 weeks off in August. And that was our summer off season. June and July on campus, pretty much no distractions, just really getting after it. Okay, so how do we organize training? Okay, we are gonna have a contraction type emphasis every day. So if it's an eccentric day, that is what we're doing. We're doing accentuated, overloaded, whatever it is, every exercise, every work set today is going to be eccentric based. Okay, same with concentric, isometric, but every day is dedicated to one contraction type emphasis. Okay, this is also a total body training system. Okay, on the next slide, you'll see a little bit more of how it lines up, but I am a big fan. I like upper lower splits, and the reason I like it is because if you come in on Monday, you're coming off a weekend, you can run, you go in, you do a big upper body lift, you save your hamstrings and your legs, now you can come back on Tuesday, sprint again, and you don't have to worry about lower body injuries. Okay, I'm not worried about blowing out a hamstring. That's why I like upper lower splits. We come back from that Tuesday sprint and now we can get in there and do some lower body. But I've since changed that up a little bit. Okay, so a couple years ago, started moving back to a total body training system. And I like using, I'd call it an emphasized concurrent system. So concurrent means you're training many, many attributes. It's not just a linear progression, 4 weeks of endurance, 4 weeks hypertrophy, 4 weeks strength, 4 weeks power. We are training everything every day. And even if you're not doing it in the weight room, don't forget they're sprinting, they're changing direction. There's a whole lot of aerobic capacity being built within the sport of basketball. Because I know every team, every school is a little different. Our guys play year round. So in June, it's 9 o'clock at night, and they love basketball. We recruit gym rats. 9 o'clock at night, you got 5-on-5 games, fights breaking out. I mean, so we're playing year round. So just everything is always going to be on display, whether you're programming it in the weight room or not. So I think whether we all want to admit it, we all are running a concurrent periodization model. Now we just need to account for that a little bit in the weight room. Okay. Now with Omni Contraction, I think that it's a very minimalistic training style. And I think that's important because one thing is you're gonna have guys that no matter what they do in the weight room, they can ball. They can just get after it. They're really, really good players. It doesn't necessarily matter if you got a 400-pound squat or a 200-pound squat. You're still gonna put the ball in the bucket. Now that being said, we can talk about robustness, resilience, strength, and all the different attributes that come with that. But we wanna send a simpler signal. Okay, if somebody's not good in the weight room, okay, and now we've got them snatching, and they're not good at snatching, but that's our A1. And then we're going into a strength exercise. Maybe they're not good at bench pressing, that really, really long arms, but they're giving it a good effort, but they're not really good at that. And then we're going into, some hypertrophy work, just a, very standard A1, B1, C1 exercise type day. I think that's very demanding on the nervous system. When you're trying to do a lot of things that you're not good at, and don't ever lose sight that exercise is skill mastery, right? It's motor skill, and you're trying to do these things. I do think it takes a toll on the nervous system. Now, I'm not gonna stand up here and pretend like I got all the answers to how much, but I think if we send a simpler signal in the weight room, I think we're gonna get a better training response. And so we're just trying to eliminate the variety of stimulus, okay, within the nervous system. And then the other thing is I want to increase the training frequency, and this is something that I've gone back and forth on a little bit, but if we're training 4 days a week within an Omni Contraction system, we're rowing 4 days, we're squatting 4 days, we're pressing 4 days, we're pulling 4 days, right? So now what we're doing is, we're just gonna more or less switch up how we're going through the exercise. Maybe joint angles, what angles we're pulling from is a really easy way to do it. But we can now increase the frequency of training. So one of the things everybody likes to talk about Westside Barbell. Rest in peace to Louis, obviously just phenomenal fingerprints over programs all over the world. But one of the things about Westside, I don't ever like to try to dissect it. The one thing I've heard is the best thing about Westside is just the atmosphere, the environment, the competitiveness. But I really like the sets and reps that have come out. I like looking at some of those programs. But one of the things is when you look at that Westside Barbell method, that conjugate method, you're looking at that dynamic effort day. okay? And you're talking about some of those guys are doing 40% on bench press, just how fast can you move 40%, some up to 60%. Well, one of the thoughts, and I do like the thought, I think there's more to it, but I do like this thought. One of the thoughts is part of the reason they set so many world records is, obviously they're just really, really good at the movements, and adding a third day, kind of a non-traditional to what was being done before that, just adding a dynamic effort day, you're getting better at the skill, the motor skill of those exercises. So I do think there's something to that. And if you're talking about the best in the world, adding extra days of movements, I think our guys can get some benefit from that too. So, all right, let's dive into it. Okay, example lifting template. This is it. If the world's perfect, this is what it looks like. Now the world's not perfect, and I'm already gonna show you how do we switch this up. Okay, so day one, coming off a weekend, guys are fresh, you're hitting a very, very eccentric, heavy day. That is the emphasis. So you're talking about, accentuated, really, really controlled, slow, lower eccentrics. You're talking about overloaded. How do we work up to 125% of your 1 rep max and do that 10 times? Okay, and we'll demo that here in a second so everybody gets a good view. But then day two, isometric days. Okay, now you're looking at it saying, we got the big bulk of our nervous system, fryer out of the way on day one. But now we're gonna come in and we're gonna do some isometrics on day two. And if you're looking at isometrics, we're not just talking about, doing Copenhagen planks or Chinese planks or anything like that. We're talking about is how do you, if you're trying to pack on muscle mass, how do we put on, 3 pauses for 3 seconds each on each rep? How are we able to put a 20-second pause as a pre-exhaust so now you're feeling where you're trying to target and going from there, okay? Or maybe we're coming off of the season right now, right? We're gonna wanna do some regenerative things. Maybe we're doing 5 straight reps and then we're trying to hold the bottom for a 30-second hold, kind of doing a QSI, right? Quasi, semi-isometric, nothing to do with the eccentric isometrics that are going around the internet right now. Okay, and then day 4, I like day 4, it's an optional day. Okay, maybe that's when you want to throw in your strongman training. Something that doesn't necessarily fit into this would be gaps. So maybe you went through the whole day or the whole week and you're saying, hey, we missed something. That's what's going into day 4. Or maybe you got your prehab, your structural balance. If you think there's a lot of value in comparing, rotator cuff strength to 1 rep max press or Y raising to overhead press, and you have some structural balance numbers you're working with, that would be a day where you can go real, real heavy on that. So again, perfect world. This is the summer, okay? Maybe you go out on day 1 and you do a lot of velocity work. Maybe you're running through your wickets. You're really trying to get your top end speed up so you got a better speed reserve when you're doing your acceleration, okay? We come in and we're doing our eccentrics in the weight room. Okay, day 2, we're gonna come back. That's your acceleration work. Maybe we're doing resisted sprinting by dragging chains. Maybe we're doing hill sprints. Maybe we're doing sled sprints, okay? And then we're gonna come in, yielding isometrics, overcoming isometrics, statodynamic reps, etc. There's a lot of variety that we can throw in with these isometrics. And if any of this terminology is new to anybody, we're gonna demo and go over everything here in a couple minutes. But one thing as well with day 2, the term yielding versus overcoming isometric, I think that's another big one, because if you're looking at hypertrophy and just building time under tension, okay, I really like yielding isometrics. Yielding isometrics means you're lowering and then stopping a movable object. And overcoming isometric means you are pressing to something immovable. So if I were to be pressing into this wall, no matter how hard I press, the joint angle's not changing, but the wall's not gonna move. Whereas if I stop this microphone, I can hold this here for a long time. This would be a yielding, that would be an overcoming isometric. Statodynamic means that you are essentially emphasizing a isometric contraction within the rep itself. At the front end, like a pre-exhaust, at the back end of the set as a post-exhaust, or you can literally do it at joint angles within the rep if you're trying to specifically target strength at a specific joint angle. Okay, and then day 3, aerobic emphasis. I am a huge tempo run guy. I think there's been a lot of negativity towards some of the old quote unquote football survival runs where you're doing these 110 survival runs. I want to be at 70%, do that for 80 or 18, 20 reps. We've done tempo runs for 150 yards. We've gone pole to pole. I love tempo runs for building aerobic capacity. don't let it turn into a survival run, okay? But that would be a day 3. Come out, hit your aerobic work, and then concentric emphasis. I mean, let the dog off the chain and let the big dog eat, right? You want to move some weight, that's when you do it. You do it on your concentric emphasis day, or maybe we're doing true concentric only. You know, maybe we're doing dead stop rows and we're dropping it. We're doing deadlifts, pick it up and drop it. All you're doing is a concentric. You know, floor press lockouts, etc. And then day 4 for me is strongman. Okay, come in, we're doing loaded carries, overhead carries, yoke carries, you know, farmer walks, things like that. And then I am a big elbow dominant guy. Okay, so I'm gonna give you my thought on this. I think it's a really good training nugget. It doesn't really have anything to do with this presentation. But if you're training athletes that have really, really long limbs, okay, the biggest example I have is we recruited a center that is only 6'7", only 6'7". He's got a 7'5" wingspan, okay? Pretty good. But that's how we recruit. If we have a 6'1" guard, he's got a 6'6" wingspan. We do not bring in guys that if they put a quarter in their pocket, they can't get it out, right? We want length. So with that being said, let's think about that for a second. You are not built to be advantageous in a press, for example. It's got to go really, really far away from you. But you are built to be advantageous in a row. Now, if we're looking at this and we're saying we're going to line up our exercises to match body type, I think there's a lot of value to stabilizing at the shoulders. I'd say 90% of the work we do in the weight room at UH is dumbbell, cable stacks. I do not think cable stacks qualify as a machine. I think they are redirected free weights. But it's going to be dumbbells, it's going to be cable stacks, and it's going to be pull-up bars. Do we bench press? Absolutely. Do we do barbell work? Absolutely. That's probably about 10% of what we're doing though. 90% is how do we stabilize with dumbbells at the top. And we'll get into that with the tempo system as well. But the other big one, elbow dominant. Okay? If you want to get really good at a chin up and you have really long arms and you think there's value to saturating the ability to be good at chin ups and do heavy chin ups, you better do some elbow dominant work with guys who have long arms. Okay? Same thing as if you think there's value to getting strong in whatever range of motion you're trying to go, but with pressing, you better do some elbow dominant tricep work with guys who have really, really long arms. Obviously, the world's not going to fall apart if you don't, but you're going to get a lot better results if you do. I am a firm believer in that. Now, with this said, again, this is perfect. I'm already going to tell you where the world's not perfect. Okay, so if you just had a starting point and how do I build out from this? Where the world is not perfect. Okay, we give our guys Friday, we do a team practice in the summer. Okay, so we wake up, we do strongman, we do elbow dominant. You know, we have a big team practice, we eat breakfast and they go home. We'll see you Monday. So there's probably 2 extremes and then what's happening is somewhere in the middle. Extreme number 1 is they do everything the right way. You get up off your feet, you hydrate, you get a lot of sleep, you get a lot of food in your system. Maybe you wake up and take a couple walks, you do some stretching, but that's perfect world. Everybody is fully recovered so that on Monday, we can open it up and do velocity work. The other end, the other extreme might be, hey, I don't gotta be back till Monday and this stipend check just hit. So maybe you're putting some stuff in your body that does not contribute to being a great athlete. Okay, maybe, whatever part of the country you're in, it's legal now. It's just part of the culture. Maybe you're putting a lot of smoke in your lungs. Maybe you're putting a lot of alcohol in your system. Maybe you're not sleeping. Maybe you're up on your phone looking for things. So if that's the case, you're not sleeping, you're not eating the right way, you're not hydrating, and then we're gonna come in on Monday and open it up and sprint, you might be asking for a problem, okay? But even if you do everything the right way, and you just sat around all weekend, the first thing you're gonna do on Monday morning is sprint, you might be asking for a problem. So one thing that I do is I actually switch it up. And again, I am a huge tempo run fan because it never goes above 70%. It is not a survival run, it is aerobic capacity. So I do my tempo run on day 1. So again, perfect world, now let's live in the real world. I'm not gonna have a weekend that went really well, really bad, just something I have no control over, derail our training with injury. So again, perfect world might look like this. We're switching it up and we're doing our tempo runs. The very first thing we do, just liver function's important. Let's try to get the body back a little bit, okay?